Welcome to the Performance Prescription Lab podcast, where we discuss hot topics in athletic health and sports science to help athletes, coaches, and athlete health team members to optimize performance and improve overall health. I'm your host, Nilhan, and my co-host, Jess, is with me. How is it going, Jess?
Hi, Niham. I'm so excited to be here today. And I think we should start off with an athletic news of the month. I think we skipped this last month, so we're going to jump back into it. And I think this topic is pretty close to both of our hearts as it impacts the spirit of sport, deals with sports pharmacy a little bit, and clean sport. This has also been highlighting some of large international organizations, WADA, which is the World Anti-Doping Agency that some of our listeners may not be familiar with. So for those who don't know what WADA is, it's an international organization that was established in 1999, whose mission is to lead a collaborative worldwide movement for doping-free sport. Its main objective includes promoting and coordinating anti-doping efforts globally, developing and harmonizing anti-doping standards, and ensuring the enforcement of these standards. So, Nilham, why don't you explain the recent news of the Chinese swimmers with an S doping scandal to listeners more in depth and kind of what that means for the upcoming Olympics since they're just around the corner?
Yeah, sure. The Paris Olympics, I think only 50 days left as of today.
Oh, so exciting.
Yeah, it's coming soon. I'm too excited too. But unfortunately, we are going to hear these kind of scandals, and we'll see how this is being tackled by these leading organizations. In this case, the world is currently facing a major doping scandal from the Chinese swimmers. Travis Gard, the top U.S. anti-doping regulator, has warned that Chinese athletes using banned substances and officials ignoring these violations could derail the upcoming games. Yes, I'm hearing a lot of breathing. By the way.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no problem. I'll start from the beginning.
Okay.
The Paris 2024 Olympics is approaching. Only 50 days left as of today. And at the same time, sports world is facing another major doping scandal. Travis Tygart, if I'm pronouncing it correctly,
Yes.
he is a top U.S. anti-doping regulator, and he has warned that Chinese athletes using banned substances and officials ignoring these violations could derail the upcoming games. The issue came to light during Chinese President Xi Jinping's visit to France, where he met with French President Emmanuel Macron. And what was the deal about this? A recent investigation revealed that 23 Chinese swimmers tested positive for prohibited drugs before the Tokyo 2021 Olympics, but they were still allowed to compete, and they even win medals. WADA accepted China's explanation that these positive tests were due to contamination in a hotel kitchen, which has caused outrage among clean athletes and anti-doping advocates, understandably. Tygart didn't hold back in his criticism. He slammed both China and WADA for failing to uphold anti-doping standards, comparing the situation to Russia's state-sponsored famous Sochi doping scandal. With public pressure mounting, WADA has announced an independent review of the scandal. And meanwhile, athletes are calling for the governments to investigate the situation further. This is a big deal for the future of clean sports and the integrity of the Olympics. We all need to keep an eye on it. We'll be following this up. And while we are on the topic of Olympics, Jess, what are your thoughts on this exciting period leading up to the Olympics and the Olympic trials period?
I think this is my favorite part of sport is the Olympic trials period. You know, like it's the time before the Olympics when it's so high stakes, it's emotional. You start seeing national pride and compelling stories. It's just so fun to watch these athletes with this unique opportunity strive to achieve their dreams and qualifying for the Olympics. And I think for many that qualifying for the Olympics is a huge a huge milestone for them. And I think it's fun as a viewer that we're cheering for a lot of athletes. Most of these athletes are actually at this point in the Olympic trials at their peak physical and mental performance. And some of them deliver these amazing performances, probably the best of their life. And even the intensity and the drama of the moments is captivating. And even if you're not a huge sports fan, I think watching the trials before the games is even more, can kind of get you into like the mood of the Olympics. I think it's fun because Olympic trials are filled with like personal stories of triumph, struggles, perseverance. And as spectators, we can see the accumulation of years of hard work, sacrifice, and dedication. I think it's also fun because there's unexpected outcomes. Sometimes there's these underdogs or lesser known athletes that come out and outperform some of the more established competitors, and they make it to the Olympics and achieve dreams that they thought maybe might not happen. So I think it's just so fun. It also allows us to see new sports that might not receive regular media coverage. So we have some new sports in the Olympics this year. And it gives us a little glimpse into those new sports before we see them in the Olympics, but also gives us glimpses into potential medalists and sets the stage for stories and rivalries. I don't know. It's just something really fun, I think, about this period before the Olympics that gets you into the mood to watch the Olympics. So,
Yeah,
but
exactly.
while we're on the topic of the Olympic trials and the pre-Olympics, I think another thing that we kind of need to highlight is what's going to happen in tennis
Yeah,
with our next news story, because seeing an athlete who's at the top of their game not
yeah,
be able to make the Olympics because of injury is just devastating. So you want
I
to lead us
agree.
into what's going on in the tennis world?
Yeah, sure. So Novak Djokovic, he is the current leading tennis player, and as of last week, he withdrew from the French Open 2024 due to a torn meniscus. This was a shockwave through Roland Garros, but let's break it down on what has happened and what does this mean. First, our listeners would want to know what's a torn meniscus. It's a cartilage in the knee that cushions and stabilizes the joints, and tears are very common in athletes. For tennis players like Djokovic, like elite players, these injuries often result from gradual wear and tear. Treatment varies. Some avoid surgery, opting for physical therapy to strengthen the muscles around the knee. However, if the tear is severe, surgery might be necessary. Less severe tears can be treated with a debridement, which trims the damaged part. More severe cases require a full repair with stitches, extending recovery to several months. So, as of today, while we are recording, Djokovic's team is still deciding on the best course of action. If surgery is needed, his return could be delayed, affecting his participation in Wimbledon and the Olympics. Even if he plays, he might not be at his peak. So Djokovic's injury is a tough break for him. Currently, Jannik Sinner became the leading player, and we'll keep an eye on it too in his recovery process. And we'll see how this is going to unfold. It's unfortunately a sad situation for Novak Djokovic fans and for tennis.
So you don't want to see any athlete not be able to play in the Olympics because of an injury. That's always so
Exactly.
hard after all the work they've put in.
I agree, but we've seen some miraculous stories because these are elite players. For example, Carlos Sainz, an F1 pilot from Ferrari, he had an appendicitis surgery, and in just 2 weeks he was at the podium, and he gets P1 position. So that was surprising, and we may see Djokovic coming back stronger. So we'll see how his recovery process will be, and we can continue to share stories throughout our Olympic months, which we will announce next episode. So let's start diving into today's episode. Jess, why don't you give our listeners an introduction about what we are going to talk today?
Yeah. Today we're discussing a hot topic crucial for anyone involved in sports and fitness. And it's the hype around sports drinks, energy drinks, and ketone drinks. These beverages promise everything from enhanced endurance to quicker recovery. But how do they work? The world of performance drinks is vast and for most people is very confusing. Whether you're an athlete looking to gain a competitive advantage, a coach aiming to support your team's hydration and energy levels, or a healthcare provider seeking to give the best advice for your clients, understanding these drinks and the differences can actually make a big difference for your clients. So from the neon covered sports drinks that promise to replenish your electrolytes to the high caffeine energy drinks claiming to boost your energy and the newer ketone drinks that aim to enhance endurance and recovery. We're going to cover it all in today's episode. We'll examine the science behind these beverages, their benefits, and potential downsides. So whether you're wondering if you should grab a sports drink after your workout, consider an energy drink for a quick boost, or curious about the latest trends in ketone supplementation, this episode is for you. We'll equip you with the knowledge to make an informed choice for peak performance. Welcome to the Performance Prescription Lab podcast. Let's get started. Nilhan, you want to start today by setting the stage for our listeners in a kind of traditional 101 talk on our topic?
Yes, I'll start with the basics. A traditional 101 is usually delivered by you, Jess. I'll take the honor in this episode and I'll hopefully do justice to it. We will talk about sports drinks, energy drinks, and so on. Why are these preferred by athletes? Performance and mainly hydration and refueling. Let's talk about hydration, which is very important building block for athletic performance. Dehydration, that's what we are trying to avoid. It is a heavy hitter when it comes to athletic performance. Dehydration, as low as 2% of body weight, can significantly impair endurance and strength, and even it may put you in life-threatening situations. Running low on water and electrolytes can affect your athletic performance. Water cushions in your joints, and being dehydrated can affect your flexibility and speed. It also hinders your reaction time. Hydration affects mental sharpness. Athletes need clear focus and quick decision-making skills, which can be compromised by dehydration. And when you're dehydrated, you may also hinder your endurance because hydration is essential for proper muscle function, including the heart muscles, and it helps you avoid cramps. And when you inhale, you need body fluids to moisten the air. So it is easier to absorb oxygen through your lungs. So hydration is important for your breathing. It is important for your mood as well. Your brain needs water to work, just as a drop in blood sugar can make a person hungry. It's a mix of angry and hungry, which some of us face, including me.
Me too.
Yeah, dehydration can affect mood and concentration and can cause headaches and irritability. And also, hydration is very important for temperature regulation. When you are adequately hydrated, it regulates your body temperature, and a sufficient fluid intake ensures continuous sweat production. This is aiding you in heat dissipation. So you're going to cool off. You need to sweat. And of course, it is very important for injury prevention because when you're dehydrated, you're going to prone to injury. Dehydration can lead to cramps, strains, and other musculoskeletal issues. So these are the reasons why hydration is very, very important.
So basically everything.
Yeah, exactly. It's the building blocks of, we should remind ourselves that our body, 75% of our bodies, I guess, or even our world is covered by water. So this is the amount, and then that has that much importance, in my opinion.
I agree with you.
Yeah. How much fluid you should drink is determined by many factors, such as how long you play, how hard you play, and the weather conditions, the environmental conditions you're in. It may also vary based on your body size, your sport, how much you are sweating, and where you train. Since we are covering sports drinks, energy drinks, and ketone drinks today, we will be covering each separately, starting with their own 101 and the science behind all of these drinks, their uses, their impacts on the performance, and what risks they may bring to you, so you become an informed athlete. We will then summarize and give you some takeaways at the end. And then let's start with our first drink, which is going to be sports drink. Jess, over to you.
Yay. So there is no shortage of neon colored sports drinks and electrolyte drinks on store shelves. These bottles are, like I said, filled with promise of improving physical performance, faster workouts, and less fatigue. Sports drinks are a common choice for many people, but many people don't know what they contain or why you should or you shouldn't drink them. Sports drinks are basically electrolyte enhanced beverages, not just colorful liquids. They can be a secret weapon for those looking to replenish glucose, fluids, and electrolytes lost during strenuous exercise and help enhance endurance. Understanding their composition and benefits will empower you to make the right choices for health and performance. So the primary function of sports drinks is to replenish the water, the carbohydrates, and the electrolytes lost during exercise and sweating. So therefore, the primary components of a sports drink is water, and as you just explained, is essential for helping us stay hydrated. Sports drinks also are enriched with electrolytes such as sodium, potassium, calcium, and magnesium, which our body needs. And sports drinks also contain a carbohydrate-based product. Usually these are sugars like fructose, glucose, or sucrose. Some brands of sports drinks may include B vitamins, which are associated with increased energy. But sports drinks are not energy drinks and vice versa. Energy drinks use high amounts of caffeine or other stimulating products, and they contain very high amounts of sugar. And we'll cover energy drinks in our next drink, so hang in there. Sports drinks have very specific amounts of sugar and electrolytes, which are formulated by chemists in the lab and are intended to help allow for quick hydration and absorption.
Jess,
You're fine.
Sorry for interrupting.
You're fine.
Yeah, I just wanted to add a break here. I'm going to cut here, but I should have asked you a question because you've been talking a lot. I didn't add a transition here. So I'm going to ask, like, what are the different classes of drinks? Okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So do you want to read the last sentence? Then I'll add a question.
Sports
drinks, specific amounts, la la la.
Yep. So sports drinks are formulated in a lab with chemists and they're testing these products, and they're formulated with very specific amounts of sugar and electrolytes that are intended to allow for very quick hydration and absorption.
When I go to the market shelves, I see a lot of sports drinks now. They are everywhere. And there are different types of it. Sometimes even myself get confused. Yes. What are these types? What do they have? Like, why do they differ? Can you help us become more informed users so when we see these labels, we don't get zoned out. We understand what we are picking up.
Yeah. So I think you can divide the sports drinks on the shelves into 3 different categories, and it's based on their concentration of carbohydrates or sugars and electrolytes. And because I have an undergrad degree in chemistry, I'll do a little 101 here. And one of my favorite terms from back in chemistry was osmolality. And basically, it's the concentration of solutes in a sports drink that are balanced to ensure optimal absorption. And it's basically the concentrations of sugars and electrolytes. And that's how they break the sports drinks up. And it also affects how well it's absorbed in the GI tract. Mm-hmm. So it's based on this idea is based on how close do these drinks mimic your natural, like, blood and fluid in your system. So you have hypotonic drinks. And these are drinks that have less than 4% carbohydrates. And these have very, very little. Sometimes there's zero. So you might think of like just plain like electrolyte tablets or packets that may have no carbohydrates or very little. And these are basically primarily designed for rapid hydration rather than energy replenishment. So the more carbohydrates they have, the more it's going to look for energy replenishment. And I find like these are very ideal for activities where dehydration is the primary concern, such as like short, intense workouts or very hot and humid conditions, because these quickly replace the fluid loss through sweat, but they provide minimal energy. So these, you can look on the back of the label and kind of look at the carbohydrate content. So these are going to be very low carbohydrates. The next group is isotonic drinks, and these basically mimic your natural body, and these are probably where most of the commercial sports drinks fall into this category, and they can contain between 6 to 8% carbohydrates. And like I said, it's similar to our natural body's fluid, and it allows for effective hydration, but also energy supply. These are best suited for moderate to high intensity exercises lasting 60 to 90 minutes because they help maintain energy and hydration. So they're ideal for like soccer, running, cycling, these longer training endurance sports. But this is where you see some of the main drinks out on the market is they're isotonic. But the last category, we do have some of these drinks, and these are the ones you kind of really need to be cautious with. These are hypertonic drinks. So they contain 10% or more of carbohydrates. So these are really thick in sugars, and they're designed to provide substantial energy boost. These are best for post-exercise to help replenish the glycogen stores that are lost during long exercise or prolonged endurance activities. So something like a marathon or a triathlon. And due to their high carbohydrate content, they're not ideal for hydration during exercise, but basically should be used as like energy recovery. I hope that kind of makes some sense to everybody listening. So Nilhan, do you want to explain how these correlate to athletic performance?
Sure. You gave us a very good overview of what these are and how they work. And I can link with some extra detail to help athletes when to use them and how to use them. We talk about dehydration, which can significantly hinder sports performance. Athletes must maintain a steady source of hydration, and they should have available carbohydrates during moderate and intense physical activities. Sports drinks play a vital role in this, helping to regulate fluid homeostasis, balance, and prevent the negative effects of fluid loss and limited availability during exercise. Water is typically all you need to rehydrate yourself if you are working out for an hour or less with a moderate intensity under normal weather conditions. But you might want to consider an electrolyte enhanced sports drink after or during your workout under certain conditions. If you are exercising for more than an hour with elevated intensity, there are even specialty drinks with higher electrolyte levels for endurance and ultra-endurance athletes. This is a case where you have to consider the specialty drinks like sports drinks. If it's very hot outside, turning your sweat glands into faucets. And for example, if you sweat and then you have white stains on your sporting clothes, this is something when you have to consider a sports drink. If you're naturally a heavy sweater or who creates puddles where you stand, again, water is not sufficient for you. You're going to need a sports drink here, especially electrolytes. Choosing the right sports drink is a common question we both get. That's why we are recording this episode for you. The same sports drink doesn't work for all situations. It's like a toolbox. You need different tools, or in this case, sports drinks for different situations. Additionally, individual considerations for each athlete must be considered, such as athlete-specific energy and hydration requirements. Factors such as your sweat rate, exercise intensity, your personal tolerance to carbohydrates, concentrations can influence the choice of your sports drink. So generally speaking, for a short duration, high intensity activities, you may go for hypotonic drinks to ensure rapid fluid absorption without significant energy replenishment. If you are doing endurance or team sports, isotonic drinks are your go-to option. They offer a balanced approach, providing hydration and a steady supply of carbohydrates to sustain performance over longer periods. And for post-exercise recovery, go for hypertonic drinks. They're important here. Their high carbohydrate content help restore glycogen levels and kickstart recovery after a long duration or highly strenuous exercise. But not every workout needs to end with a race sports drink. One area that we want to highlight is the nuances of sports drinks, especially in kids. Jess, why don't you explain this to our listeners since you work with younger athletes of practice?
Yeah. So research has shown the benefit of sports drinks in adult athletes. Though some studies are not conclusive as others, there is still definitely benefits to using the right sports drink in the right situation. But the research in children is actually lacking. So children's sweat rate is highly variable. And so it's more difficult to establish an amount of exercise time that the drinks may be useful. Whereas we said with adults, 60 to 90 minutes, you definitely will need a sports drink. Children, it's much more difficult to determine that. However, with monitoring by coaches or parents, providing these sports drinks to children or adolescents who exercise vigorously for more than 60 minutes may help prevent dehydration. But these drinks are usually unnecessary for children engaged in routine play or just play-based physical activity. It's estimated that sports drinks comprise about 26% of total sugar sweetened beverage intake in adolescence. And when I saw that number, I was like, that's a lot.
No, I agree.
I think a lot has to do with marketing. They're fun colors, like they're on every show or social media. But I think the thing that many people miss is that these sports drinks they do contain less sugar than soda. But so for example, a 12 ounce soda drink contains about 39 grams of sugar compared to about 21 grams in some of the popular sports drinks. But drinking too many of these, especially when you're not performing vigorous exercise, can and has been shown to increase the risk of being overweight or obesity, along with other health problems such as diabetes type 2, cardiovascular disease, and gout. Also, for our dentist, we're going to highlight that it can increase the risk of dental cavities. So just something to be aware of if you're giving these to your child as just a drink, it's not their proposed benefit. The other thing is that sports drinks contain higher levels of sodium that children do not need in large amounts and can be helpful, increasing blood pressure and increasing, again, their risk of cardiovascular disease. So surprising, but water is sufficient for most children and adolescents to maintain adequate hydration during physical activities. And sports drinks should only be consumed if the child participates in strenuous physical activity for more than an hour or specifically recommended by their healthcare professional. I do find that sports drinks can be beneficial when you're sick and you can't keep hydrated and you're having trouble with hydration and electrolytes. So definitely there is another area that you could use it when they're sick, but just wanted to highlight that. So sports drinks serve a definite purpose. Nilhan, how would athletes or even healthcare professionals look for a sports drink or when to recommend them? Are there any type of guidelines such as such?
Yeah, sure. There are guidelines, and of course, we should be able to understand these guidelines and transfer to our listeners so they become an informed user. But when you are talking about Water is sufficient for most of the children. It just reminded me of this movie called Space Jam. Do you remember it?
Oh, I love that movie.
Do you
Yes.
remember? When they were at the final game, they were given just a bottle of water. It was shaked, and they thought it was a magical potion, but it was just water.
Just water.
Yeah, then they won the competition, which is very true. Sometimes, especially parents, when they are overambitious, they look for some magical potions to share, to offer to their younger athletes.
Yeah.
And sometimes water is just sufficient. So let's become informed users, whether you're a child or you're an adult. But
sure.
The right hydration strategy needs to follow some of the guidelines. First of all, reading the label to see what's in the sports drink and ensure it meets your needs, and whether your preferences are covered for carbs, calories, and salt is going to be the starting point. Choose a drink based on how much salt you lose in your sweat, and which differs from person to person. Again, if you're a heavy sweater, if you have white stains on your clothes after exercising, that can be a good way to measure that. And of course, you can also work with specialists who are specialized in measuring how much sweat you may lose. You may perspire very lightly or soak your shirt, leaving salt crystals, as I mentioned, these white stains, or find you are somewhere in between. Activities involving heavy gear or padding, such as football, can cause sweating and fluid loss, especially in hot weather. There can be between 200 milligrams to 2,000 milligrams of salt in each liter of sweat. So this is very personalized. Kids and adults handle water and salt loss differently, obviously. While children are considered dehydrated after losing 1% of their fluid levels, adults can lose up to 2% before hitting that definition. One way for you to measure this yourself is to weigh yourself before exercise and after exercise, and you're going to see how much weight you lose. And this can give you an idea of how much water, how much fluids you lose during the exercise, and then you can plan accordingly. Puberty makes a big difference in sweat output. It is important to know that a teenager may sweat out fluid and electrolytes faster than they did as a child. As a guideline, adults should aim for 200 milligrams of salt per 16-ounce serving of sports drink. This is roughly 500 ml. And a 12-ounce bottle, this is roughly 350 ml, should have at least 150 milligrams. In terms of sugar, carbohydrates, the drink should contain 6 to 8% total carbohydrates for energy replacement. Remember, these are general recommendations, and hydration should follow a personalized plan for each athlete. Too much carb may cause gastrointestinal stress, or too less salt may cause hyponatremia. We're going to talk about it in a while. It is best to test during exercise rather than trying this strategy during a competition in order not to risk your performance and your health. So make sure these are test and trial, of course, in safe limits, so you don't hinder your performance or health. After a tough workout, sipping or chugging one down can help restore your body's electrolyte levels and keep you from experiencing the effects of dehydration. But remember that sports drinks are specialty drinks. It is not something to grab when you're just thirsty. This is what I see in markets, and I always feel like intervening. And besides, it is also possible to overdo sports drinks as well. If you consume too many electrolytes, that's not a good thing either. I touched on the idea of electrolytes here, and I think we may talk about their role in our body, because we said it is good for these cases, it is not for this kind of cases. Sometimes it's helpful to understand how they work in our body, why we need them, and why too much or too little might not be good. Yeah. Jess, I'll just throw the ball to you again.
Yeah. So I think, I mean, you can probably speak also, but we've started to see a lot more, not just sports drinks, but just electrolyte packets where you can add the electrolytes into your water and make it a little more convenient. So electrolytes are sold either usually individually packet powders or super cool tablets that you add to your water, or your glass bottle or whatever you have. Electrolytes include salt and minerals such as potassium, phosphate, calcium, magnesium, and sodium. Maintaining electrolyte balance maximizes the performance of the body, especially the muscles, the organs, and the joints. Except for bicarbonate, which the body can produce itself, electrolytes come from the food and beverages that we consume. Uh, Electrolytes dissolve in water, and these levels can decrease when your body loses water, through eliminating waste. So think of this as like going to the bathroom, breathing, and sweating. These last two functions can be sped up for people who are playing sports. So if you're breathing heavier and you're sweating more, this is why athletes need to be aware of their electrolyte intake during periods of activity. So why are electrolytes important for athletes? One, they help with muscle function. They help with the contraction and relaxation of muscles. And an imbalance of electrolytes can lead to cramps or fatigue. And I'm pretty sure all of us have at least had one leg cramp in our life that knows the pain of cramping when you
Oh,
are dehydrated.
yeah, I know. I know.
And I think I know when I used to play volleyball outdoors, the number one thing people would drink was pickle juice, which I still to this day think is disgusting, but it is high in electrolytes.
Exactly.
And so people drink pickle juice to help prevent cramps. But just a side note on that one.
I like it.
Electrolytes are also important for nerve function. So they control the nerve impulses, which means they control how our muscles react, impacting voluntary and involuntary movements. Electrolytes are also helpful in maintaining the balance of fluids both inside and outside our cells, ensuring our cells function properly. And they can also help enhance rehydration by promoting fluid retention and replacing lost salts that we have. The last thing that's electrolytes are really important for athletes is helping maintain the body's pH level, which is vital for metabolic processes and overall health. So depending on their formulas, some say that they'll hydrate faster and better, and others go as far as promising increased energy and endurance, immune boosting properties, and so much more. Notably, most packets I want to highlight here do not contain sugars. So just something to be aware of. They can provide electrolytes, but they may not be providing the sugar, especially if you're doing a longer activity. So you may need to look at that as being an informed consumer. So if you want to rehydrate, it's not just about taking enough fluid, so just water. Electrolytes do matter too. Nilham, we know that you're an athlete and sweat rate is important. So you want to talk about what it's like when it comes to managing hydration and sweating. I mean, you're sitting in the heat right now, so I feel like
Exactly.
this is a perfect thing for you to cover for us.
Yes, currently it's 40 something degrees in Cyprus, Celsius degrees, and I'm out of electricity, sitting in heat with my fan, and I'm happy to talk about sweat. And I'm hydrating myself, by the way, with water only, but I'm gonna use an electrolyte tablet very, very soon. So let's talk a little bit about science rather than anecdotal information. And I can start with a study from 2016 from International Journal of Sports Nutrition and Exercise Metabolism Review. You can lose around, according to this study, you can lose around 360 milligrams to 1,620 milligrams of sodium in one workout if you sweat anywhere from 0.5 to 1.5 liters per hour. A half teaspoon of table salt is 1.1, around 1.2 milligrams of sodium and chloride. And if you sweat the equivalent liquid of a big gulp drink, this is, I guess, a drink, very famous, popular drink in the US, you've also lost a half teaspoon of salt. Friendly reminder, you don't have to sweat in an effective workout. So again, this is very personalized. Nothing is wrong if you're not sweating or if you're sweating a lot. You just have to take the right strategy. If you lose a lot of electrolytes in your sweat, drinking plain water isn't enough to rehydrate you. The water won't absorb well enough since you need those electrolytes to help keep the fluid in your body's cells. Without them, the fluid will end up passing through your body to quickly turn into your urine. So that's why I recommend athletes not just to continue, for example, for a runner, if they just drink water, they'll just lose also the electrolytes in your body through constantly urinating. You need a balanced ratio of water and electrolytes to maintain a proper hydration. Another study from 2021, published in Applied Sciences, researchers compared the effects of water and electrolyte drinks, which included sodium, potassium, magnesium, carbs, sugar, and vitamin C, similar to many commercially available electrolyte packets. Consumption before and after strenuous exercise on a treadmill with a test group of 10 young men. This research has found that when the men drank the electrolyte drink, their bodies were better able to retain water, meaning it would take them longer to dehydrate. Plus, the group showed improved exercise ability and reduced exercise-related fatigue compared to when they drank the regular water. When we talk about adding electrolytes, this could mean specialized tablets or powders, but it doesn't have to. You can also get electrolytes from sports drinks as well as foods. For instance, eating salty snacks like beef jerky, pretzels is my favorite, cheese and crackers provide sodium, while fruits such as bananas, dates, watermelon offer potassium. So also pickled juice that we just talked about is also another resource of electrolytes. And according to another 2010 review in the Scandinavian Journal of Medicine and Science in Sports, eating regular food that contains salt, say like a bag of pretzels, and combining that with plain water should be enough to rehydrate you after exercise. So it doesn't have to be very, very fancy. You can find your own solution. More research on electrolyte drinks is still needed to be done, especially studies that look at which ingredients may be responsible for what effects, as well as more research with diverse groups of people is needed. In the meantime, though, tempering your expectations on what electrolyte packets can do for your exercise routine, above and beyond simply rehydrating you, can be helpful. Hopefully this gives a deeper understanding of sports drinks, but also more about your body and why hydration and carbs are important too. Now, next to everyone's, especially social media's favorite energy drinks, I really, really want to talk about energy drinks. Can they be considered sports drinks? What does the science say? Is it good for you or can hinder your health and performance? So much to say about it. I'm gonna hand over to Jess. So he's gonna give you a comprehensive 101 on energy drinks now.
Energy drinks. I feel like they're so often and unfortunately confused with sports drinks. Energy drinks contain, and I know for us in the US, I'm assuming over in Cyprus, and I know you travel internationally, they're always on the shelf right next to each other, like in the grocery store. So I can see why it's so confusing for people, sports drinks versus energy drinks, and they're on the shelves right next to each other.
Yeah.
But energy drinks, they contain a large amount of caffeine and many other stimulants, and they are marketed to increase alertness, provide energy. They always contain significant amounts of caffeine and much more sugar than soda. However, they are not sports drinks and should not be used when the purpose is to replenish electrolytes and fluid. Sports drinks and energy drinks are advertised to appeal to those who are exercising and need a boost of energy to get through the day. That's about the similarities at that point. Energy drinks contain many of the following. They contain carbonated water, which for some people, the carbonation can cause issues. They can contain around 40 grams of sugar. They contain from 160 milligrams of caffeine all the way up to about 500 milligrams of caffeine. And so for reference, some of those energy drinks that are 3 to 500 milligrams of caffeine can be anywhere equivalent to 10 to 12 cans of soda. I was like, oh, that is a lot of
It's a
caffeine
lot.
when you
That's
compare it that
scary.
way. Isn't that scary? Artificial sweeteners, and then a lot of herbal substances associated with mental alertness and performance. But a lot of these also lack scientific evidence, though they're marketed scientific evidence with controlled trials. You may see 1 or 2 trials that they decided to put these products in. So you might see taurine, Panax ginseng root, L-carnitine, guanara seed extract, and B vitamins. Nilhan, what concerns you the most, do you think, about energy drinks?
Well, I would love to say one thing, but I'm going to talk a little bit.
Yeah, there's a
I am
couple.
concerned. I am concerned, and I want to start with how these products are not regulated regarding the quality of
Very
the
important.
products, like you said, the dosage, and even their safety. All these aggressive marketing tactics are geared towards adolescents mostly. Because of the amount of sugar and the stimulant ingredients, there is concern that these beverages may not be helpful and, even worse, harmful to adolescents and people with certain health conditions, especially people with heart conditions. Estimates show it is a $21 billion industry, with marketing campaigns targeting youth and being sold in places that are easily accessed by this age group. They're everywhere, in gas stations, in markets, in even gyms.
Everywhere.
Youth are exposed to energy drink advertising on children's websites, computer games, television, supermarkets, sporting events, social media. And research has shown that adolescents lack maturity in key areas of the brain and are more likely to engage in risk-taking behavior, obviously, making them vulnerable to risky behaviors, sometimes portrayed in energy drink marketing. Youth are attracted to energy drinks due to effective marketing. They are very fancy, and they got influence from peers and these influencers on social media, and lack of knowledge about their potential harmful effects will make them prone to just get and grab an energy drink. I'm going to refer back to our episode 1 on caffeine. I think we always mention this episode somehow. And then
We
here it
do.
comes again. And because these energy drinks contain high amounts of caffeine, this can induce irregular rapid heartbeats. This is very risky to heart health. Individuals may become anxious and they can develop sleeping problems. And those consuming energy drinks instead of sports drinks or water may become dehydrated at the same time. Also, although many ingredients in these energy drinks are marketed as being natural, they may be present in much larger quantities than people normally consume. So when something is herbal and natural, it doesn't mean that it's safe. Something is safe according to its dose. This is what we were taught in pharmacy day 1. So if something is natural, herbal, don't just buy it. Question the dose and what's in it.
Yeah, I think many people miss that on the label. They'll put in like high amounts of like B vitamins or taurine or they'll put all these high amounts, and most people think the more the better. And that's not always true. Like some of the studies may show small doses, and this may be way more than what we consume. So there may not be the safety or know what the side effects could be caused because of taking these high amounts.
I agree. And an energy drink may be used by adolescents or college students cramming for exams through the night or before an important game. While it is true that some controlled trials have shown temporary improved alertness and reversal of fatigue after taking energy drinks, as well as enhanced physical performance in young athletes. The majority of studies show an association with negative health effects. So there is always risk and the benefit. So we have to make a thorough analysis. These include increased stress. These health problems include increased stress, aggressive behaviors like fighting, alcohol, cigarette, and maybe substance abuse, increased blood pressure, increased risk of obesity and type 2 diabetes, poor sleep quality, and stomach irritation. According to International Society of Sports Nutrition, ISSN, they have issued this position statement on energy drink after analyzing their safety and efficacy. They concluded that consuming energy drinks 10 to 60 minutes before exercise can improve mental focus, alertness, anaerobic performance, and endurance in adults, largely through the effects of caffeine. If you read the labels carefully, you will see that caffeine is combined with other stimulants. You just explain what they have, like guarana and other stuff in it. So why not opting for a caffeine supplement or coffee instead, rather than getting all this portion of stimulants
and all the high sugar too.
High sugar. Yeah, high sugar is also, I think, quite toxic in our bodies, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Other ingredients in these drinks require more study to demonstrate their safety and effects on performance, and ISSN cautioned that higher calorie energy drinks can lead to weight gain and that their high glycemic load could negatively affect blood glucose and insulin levels, so your metabolism can also be hindered. As with many other highly respected organizations, they discourage the use of energy drinks for children and adolescents unless under careful parental monitoring, and for people with diabetes or cardiovascular disease who could be negatively affected by the stimulant ingredients. They should have been sold in pharmacies, in my opinion, because this is our job.
Yes.
to offer this kind of toxic and risky ingredients under caution. So maybe it's too much to give this responsibility to the public, in my opinion. Anyway, I've been very negative towards anything, so let's balance the tone a little bit. I mentioned our episode 1, caffeine. There is a big concern on its impact on caffeine on sleep, because usually these energy drinks contain high amounts of caffeine. So what do you want to say, just to remind our listeners about caffeine, how it works, because that's the main ingredient in this energy drink. So how does this work, especially in the context of sleep?
Yeah, I feel like so many people miss out. I feel like the way energy drinks are marketed and people, the impacts on their sleep, you get stuck in this cycle. And so people are like, well, I didn't sleep well, so I need an energy drink, which then later impacts their sleep. And then they don't sleep well. So I think they get stuck in a cycle of thinking the energy drink may help them get through the day. And it's just good marketing. But we'll get off our soapbox and go on to caffeine, a little bit on caffeine. For those that haven't listened to episode 1, caffeine exerts its stimulant effects by antagonizing the adenosine receptors. So adenosine is a neuromodulator that promotes sleep and relaxation by inhibiting neuronal activity. So by blocking the adenosine receptors, caffeine prevents the onset of drowsiness, leading to increased alertness and wakefulness. This effect is beneficial for short-term cognitive function and physical performance. Still, it can adversely affect sleep patterns if you consume caffeine later in the day, and that's because it takes people 6 to 10 hours, depending on your metabolism, for half the dose of the caffeine you consumed to decrease. So if you drank 200 milligrams of caffeine, in 6 to 10 hours, you would still have 100 milligrams in your system. That's what's really important on these energy drinks, is there's large amounts of caffeine, so it takes a long amount of time to clear it out. Caffeine intake, especially in the hours before bedtime, can significantly increase sleep latency, which is the time it takes to fall asleep, due to its prolonged stimulant effects. Studies have shown that caffeine consumption can also reduce total sleep time. Even when caffeine is ingested earlier in the day, its effects can still be present, leading to shorter sleep duration. Caffeine can also disrupt sleep architecture, decreasing the duration of low wave sleep and rapid eye movement or REM sleep. Both are critical for physical recovery and cognitive function. Slow wave sleep is essential for muscle recovery and immune function, while REM sleep is critical for cognitive processes such as memory consolidation. Disruption of these stages can lead to non-restorative sleep, impacting both your mental and physical performance. So for athletes who do use caffeine, we recommend using caffeine very strategically before events or training sessions to improve performance, but without compromising nighttime sleep. We suggest aiming to consume caffeine at least 6 hours before bedtime. Also, I would suggest making sure you have a solid sleep hygiene, sleep plan, and nutrition, and using caffeine strategically and not just to mask or band-aid over poor nutrition. As always, safer alternatives for energy boosts include proper nutrition, adequate sleep, and other natural sources of caffeine like coffees or teas, which typically have lower caffeine contents than energy drinks. While energy drinks can offer temporary benefits such as increased alertness and performance, the risks often outweigh the reward, particularly when consumed in excess. Now we're on to our last drink category, Nilham. This one we want to highlight, as you highlighted it to me, and especially seen in, since you do more endurance athlete work, and this is something you brought to my attention, is ketone drinks. So I will give you the honors of doing our listeners the 101 on ketone drinks.
Thank you, thank you. It's an honor to be appointed to deliver a 101 from by you. So ketone drinks, I found this really interesting. These are the new guys in the block, newest drinks on the market. Not very, very new, not very recent, but we started to hear more about them. There is some sort of a marketing, obviously. Many competitive athletes, especially cyclists, runners, endurance athletes, they swear by ketone drinks. And I'm sure our listeners are curious to hear. Sam Laidlaw, he is the Ironman 2023 world champion. He is sponsored by ketone drink, which he does heavy marketing as well. And since he became the world champion, then people got really interested in these types of drinks. So let's help our listeners to understand what are these. Ketone drinks are a popular sports supplement that promises to improve athletic performance by packing many of the purported benefits of a low-carb, high-fat, ketogenic diet into a single beverage. They offer a way to deliver ketones to the body without cutting carbs. The biological rationale for this supplement's potential ergogenic performance enhancing effect is that it might not only alter muscle fuel preference during exercise and promote glycogen sparing with potential benefits for endurance performance, it also favors cognition performance during exertion or muscle glycogen synthesis after exercise. So sounds like a magical potion. What are the ketones? How do they work, Jess? Could you give a little science crash course on ketones for our listeners? Then I'll continue the next part of our 101.
Yeah, so glycogen stored in muscles is the main energetic substrate for muscle work during intense endurance exercise. So think of this as like the last mountain ascent of like the Tour de France stage, something I will never do. As such, the depletion of muscle glycogen stores accelerates fatigue onset during the strenuous task, and carbohydrate loading has traditionally been viewed as the best nutritional strategy before and during endurance exercise to preserve muscle glycogen stores and thus prevent premature fatigue. However, in recent years, ketone supplementation has been proposed as an alternative or complementary strategy that might boost endurance sports performance through a different metabolic pathway. So, what are ketones? Ketones are produced by the liver, namely acetyl, wait, acetyl, oh my gracious.
Aceto acetate. ACAC.
ACAC, beta hydroxybutyrate, which is BHB and acetone. And when your body faces a shortage of sugar, so your body produces these three main ketones in your liver when you have a shortage of sugar. This happens during periods of fasting or prolonged exercise, or when you're on a very low carbohydrate diet. Think the ketogenic diet. Under these conditions, the liver converts fats to ketones, which are then used to provide critical fuel to tissues such as the heart and the brain. When you're in a state of ketosis, you use BHB as your main source of energy instead of carbohydrates. So you may notice BHB as the ketone found in the drink regarding exogenous ketone supplements. This is because, like I said, BHB is the main source that your body runs on.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, we mentioned it a couple of times, but when I heard the ketone drinks, I was like, I heard this terminology from somewhere, like ketone drinks. Then, yes, ketogenic, the keto diet.
Yes.
That is very popular. And then the drinks follow this popularity. And the keto diet, in the idea in the keto diet is if carbohydrate intake is reduced to less than 50 grams daily, the body produces ketone for brain fuel by making other tissues rely on fat as an energy resource. While this diet may work for weight loss, many studies have shown that it impairs sports performance. And this is not surprising, as carbohydrates are essential for sustaining high intensity exercise. We mentioned this several times. Since our bodies store much more fat than carbohydrates, ketogenic diets theoretically should allow endurance athletes to train and race longer and harder before bonking or hitting the wall. But any such effects, which have proved elusive in actual elite athletes, require weeks or months of binging on bacon and butter before a person's body starts efficiently using fat as its primary fuel. So, in my opinion, again, we train our guts for carbohydrate intake, for example. Again, our metabolism works in a certain way. If you would like to benefit from ketones and it's use it as a fuel, then you have to train your body. So again, these are Tour de France or Iron athletes or Ironman world champions. They have a certain training strategy. Drinking your ketones, on the other hand, seem theoretically to promise a quick, easy way to gain the performance benefits of going keto. We praise ketone drinks, but we also gave the negative aspects. But let's step on the other side of the scales. What are the other risks? We explain the way that it works, but they also come with some sort of risks before you include this into your routine. Jess, we want to talk about some potential risks. And what does the study say?
Yeah, I think from my understanding, there's been many attempts to develop a ketone supplement. Initially, most ketone supplements cause gastrointestinal issues and did not sufficiently increase ketone body availability. For instance, there was an Australian study published in 2017 undertaken on professional cyclists that used a ketone ester. So this is a ketone body bound to a diester supplement, and the cyclists reported impaired time trial performance accompanied with significant gut discomfort and limited increase in ketone body availability. Despite the purported benefits of ketone body supplementation in sports performance, the evidence is still controversial, and indeed, a recent systematic review concluded that the results provided across studies were mixed. There was another recent study that involved 23 trained adult cyclists who regularly rode more than 5 hours a week, and they completed 2 separate 20-minute time trials on stationary bikes. Before one, they downed ketone supplements that were widely commercially available, and on the other, they drank a beverage with a similar flavoring but no ketones. And then they rode. The study tried to keep things simple and replicate real world scenarios using a time trial format, mimicking like a short, fast bike race of like 5 or 10K. The results were ambiguous. Riders produced about 2% less power after drinking ketone beverages than placebo, translating into a significantly slower race time. So these results, I think, need to be contextualized for those in a sports setting, and what that percent difference means. So if you're looking at the total performance time between the first and the 10th rider of the Tour de France, it is less than 1%. So 2% lower can be a huge difference. So
marginal gains.
can be. Some studies, including this group, suggested that ketone supplements might aid in recovery after multiple hard workouts or races. And they have found that it could also help during prolonged endurance events, such as like 5 or 6 hour Tour de France stages, or like long ultra marathons or Ironmans. But the research has mostly been done on non-elite athletes, and the challenges don't mimic in professional athletes. So I think the jury's still out on if there is really any benefit, and the side effects, I think, may kind of, as you get into here in a second, maybe some of the negatives to it.
I agree. People would like to gain marginal gains. It really depends on how trained you are, and the studies are still lacking, and there are some risks. So, in my opinion, the listeners should definitely work with a professional to balance out the risks and the benefits for them, and then invest accordingly. And there are some other issues that may make athletes think about before getting a ketone drink or not. Is the taste, and then the side effects accordingly. Taste is very important, in my opinion. And most people describe the taste as being less than enjoyable, or just be kind here, or extremely bitter. And the drink also caused some stomach and intestinal problems, which may definitely hinder your performance. And most athletes complained of bloating, burping, flatulence, heartburn, and stomach pain. Definitely try if you'd like to go for a ketone drink during your training, not in competition. Other issues that have been noted are possible electrolyte imbalances, hypertension, since ketone salts usually contain sodium, or dehydration may be another side effect, as taking ketone supplements can heighten the effects of a keto diet and make you more likely to become dehydrated. The scientists agreed that more research is needed before making recommendations. There is scarce evidence available on the effects of chronic supplementation, and more importantly, evidence is needed regarding the safety of the long-term use of ketone supplements. To date, insufficient evidence supports ketone supplementation's effectiveness in athletes. So that is the overall perspective from us as two sports pharmacists on ketone drinks. Today we covered sports drinks, energy drinks, and finally ketone drinks. And let's wrap up everything and finish with some practical tips for athletes, Jess.
Yeah. So I think I will start with the before you exercise. And it's critical that athletes start thinking of hydration hours before you start training or you have a competition. And I think most people need to start looking at hydration, 4 to 6 hours before exercise. And at this point, you're starting to look at fluids and wanting stuff that does have a little bit of sodium. And I think this is an important time to start remembering that, as you talked earlier, food can help with hydration. There are hydrating foods such as watermelon, kiwi, cantaloupe, and they're also good sources of antioxidants, vitamins, and they will help boost some water content on top of being delicious. And
Yeah.
then I think the other thing to start before you exercise is about 2 hours before. If you can't go pee or your pee is really dark, you need to drink more fluid.
Yeah.
Urine color is a great visual indicator as to your body's hydration status. So the principle is very straightforward. The more hydrated you are, the lighter your urine will be. Conversely, the darker, the more dehydrated you are. I also like to tell people to gauge their hydration based on frequency of needing of urination. So if you need to go to the bathroom every 2 to 4 hours, you're probably well hydrated. But if you can go like 4 to 6 hours or even the whole day, there's a chance that you're definitely already dehydrated.
Yeah. Then I can continue with during exercise.
Yeah.
How much fluid you need depends on how much you sweat, as we just said. Drink when you are thirsty. Drink to thirst. This is called this strategy. Is good for workouts shorter than 60 minutes when it's not too hot and when you are working out with a lower intensity. For longer workouts than 60 minutes, try to drink about 4 to 6 ounces of fluid every 15 minutes for a total of 16 to 24 ounces per hour. So when we speak about milliliters, I can say it's just few sips every 15 minutes. Yeah. And then trying to get around 500 ml per hour would be our advice. And then again, personalize it. You can use your urine color as a good indicator. Chugging all the water at once not only impacts the body's ability to absorb all the water, but also leaves you with a slushy belly feeling. So this is not good. Again, sipping every 50 minutes and trying to complete perhaps 500 ml or 6 to 24 ounces of water can help you during exercise. And if you are going to exercise for over an hour, it's a good idea to drink a sports drink containing carbohydrates instead of just water. Athletes should not skip getting protein as part of their recovery nutrition as well. Of course, this is after the exercise. So I'll pass on Jess for after exercise advice.
Yeah.
Recommendations.
Yes. So I think you talked about it or this also a little bit earlier, but after exercise, one thing you can do to kind of help understand your body a little bit better is you can weigh yourself before or after your workout and basically drink 20 to 24 ounces of fluid for every pound that you lost. So I think it's just one way to it's not something you have to do every day, but it is a good way to start helping you gauge based on the type of training you're doing or the temperatures or stuff like that, how much you're sweating, to just have an idea of how much fluid you're losing. Mm-hmm. Another way to ensure that you're drinking enough after exercising is to drink 2 to 3 cups of fluid every hour for 2 to 3 hours. This can help you stay hydrated without weighing yourself. So again, it's just something when you finish your workout, I know sometimes you don't feel like drinking, but making sure that you rehydrate your body afterwards is very important. We talked about this. Looking at your sweat patterns can help you understand if you need to replace more water and electrolytes. And another way to do this is also to taste your sweat. If your sweat is salty or burns your eyes, you might be someone who sweats out a lot of salt. So that means you may need to replace more of it. And if you're soaking wet after your workout, you're probably also a heavy sweater, or if you're needing to change shirts. So things that may help clue you in to making sure that you hydrate with electrolytes, sugars, protein, and water after you work out. One of the favorites, as they talked about years ago in the Olympics, was chocolate milk. Water, electrolytes, and sports drinks are some of the best things you can do once you're done exercising. Chocolate milk has a great amount of sugars, liquid and protein. So that's why they go with chocolate milk.
I love it.
Yes.
I prefer it as my recovery drink after exercise.
Yes.
We get another common question whether you can drink too much water. Yes, you can. And if you drink too much water quickly, it can cause a problem called hyponatremia. This is life-threatening. When you drink too much water, it dilutes the sodium in your body. Sodium helps control the amount of water in and around your cells. If there is too much water and not enough sodium, your cells can swell, leading to fluid buildup and swelling in your brain and lungs. This is why it's life-threatening. And this should be avoided. So again, personalizing your hydration plan, your sodium electrolyte intake is very, very important. I have an athlete who faced a severe hyponatremia and it was life-threatening. So after that, that was a very bad lesson for him to understand that he should personalize his sodium intake and also fluid intake. So again, as we just said again today, the dose is very important. Even the dose of water is very important. Athletic performance is very complex and tons of things involved play a part, from sleep to nutrition to training, even to genetics. All are important, and simply adding electrolytes or caffeine isn't a magic bullet. So go ahead. You can add some flavor to your water if you want to, but don't feel like you have to. You can get plenty of electrolytes from food, and chances are you probably already do take electrolytes.
Yeah. I think that was an amazing episode. I hope all the listeners gained a whole bunch of knowledge on these drinks and kind of be able to give you some more tools and education to your toolbox. So as sports pharmacists, our mission is to always provide accurate and evidence-based information to optimize your health and performance. When it comes to your health and well-being choices, consult with your physician or pharmacist, prioritize safety, and always make informed decisions. Thank you for joining us today on the Performance Prescription Lab podcast. We look forward to sharing with you more valuable scientific and actionable insights in our next episode. Until then, cheers to whatever drink you choose to fuel your performance or rehydrate.
Cheers, guys.